Hello guys, second module dedicated to Frugal Innovation as a new paradigm to design for sustainability. Today we will talk about the concept of extreme constraint. To start, let me show you this part of the paper done by Stephen et al. This paper is dedicated to the trajectory of Anthropocene, the Great Acceleration. In fact, human activities have begun to influence the global physical, chemical and biological processes, and the 50s are considered at the beginning of this Anthropocene. The global changes come from extreme constraint. In the first module, we talk about the concept of system. Well, a constraint is an event that can act on flows or entities that belong to the system. And the notion of extreme can be considered if the consequences can destabilize the human life, the biodiversity, the economy of a country, the food sovereignty, the energy sovereignty, the right of housing, access to information, knowledge, healthcare, culture. Let's check this example from the movie of On a World.
We've got a problem here.
What did you do?
Nothing. Stirred the text.
Whoa. Hey.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
Gene, we have a situation brewing with the carbon dioxide.
We had a CO2 filter problem on the lunar module.
5 filters on the lane.
We're coming for 2 guys for a day and a half.
So I told the doctor.
They're already up to 8 on the gauges. Anything over 15 and you get impaired judgment, blackouts, the beginnings of brain
Well, I
asphyxia.
suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Guess my car we got.
Gas is literally poisoning the astronauts with every breath in and
Heads
out.
up, heads up.
And smoke will not help.
Heads up, people, look out now.
What's this?
That's what they gotta make.
Okay, as you can see that because of the carbon dioxide problem in the capsule, due to a technical failure, if the engineer cannot fix the problem, well, the astronaut will die. So we have there a very extreme constraint, and the consequences can be very, very difficult, dangerous for the astronauts. From that, we can see that necessity is mother of innovation. I mean, you have to find a solution.
Pretty crazy. Normally right here we should be able to see the ocean. Water is going down, the tides are slowly coming in as well. As you can see, look. Not so much, nice. This is gonna take years to fix.
Okay, this is just another example of an extreme constraint due to the climate change. And there, you have there an hurricane that it is more frequent, grave, not controllable. And finally, when you have such extreme constraints, you have to redesign things. I mean, you have to redesign under such extreme constraint. For example, you have to change the way to design, to construct housing, the way to define your the grid for the energy, water, etc. You can find a lot of other extreme constraint. This one is dedicated to the critical raw materials for Europe by 2030, and if you cannot able to supply the materials, you have to change the way. Your strategy should be changed, so you have to redesign. You should maybe follow the circular economy to increase the shelf life, a new way to design for X, I mean disassembly, recycling, etc. In this example, because of the COVID-19 crisis, countries in Europe had difficulties in supplying masks. So due to the urgent need for masks, some small companies reoriented their production to manufacture masks. At the same time, they asked for volunteers for temporary production. Again, due to the COVID-19 crisis, because of the amount of deaths, no more room in the morgues in Spain in 2020. So they tried to help hospital with disease people to store bodies in morgue from ice arena. Okay, so now let's try to give a definition concerning extreme constraint. We can say that an extreme constraint is a physical or abstract entity, and it imposes a deep imbalance in the normal functioning of the system. If you want to explain a little bit more to detail constraint, you can define attributes: form, domain of influence, cause, duration, and amplitude. I will explain it just after. From a general point of view, an extreme constraint is undergone. It's never desired. It can be voluntarily activated or started. The extreme constraint can arise in a spontaneous way. It can be permanent or temporary. Its amplitude is exceptional compared with the normal mode of functioning. An extreme constraint is dynamic. It evolves within the time. Okay, let's have a look concerning the details. So the type, when we talk about the type, I mean internal constraint or external constraint. For the internal constraint, it only depends on the technical problem. For the external constraint, it depends on the situational or contextual aspect. For example, the access to the resources, material, budget, or information. The form can be physical abstract. We already talked about it before. Concerning the domains of influence, it can be social, environmental, or economical. For the causes, comes from maybe a failure, from a company, from human activities, or maybe an environmental event, for example, a hurricane. For the duration, well, it depends on the context. Again, the duration defines the starting date, if you have it, how long time, and maybe the ending date, if it's possible to define it. The amplitude can be done with qualitative or quantitative data. So let's try to make an exercise. Try to identify the attributes of an extreme constraint based on the attributes, and try to explain it to someone near from you. Okay guys, that's all for this module number 2. So let's go now to the module number 3. Be humble, be responsible.